What's going on, ladies and gentlemen, saints and inks, or as the late great Bernie Mac said, what's up, you squares? Welcome to Lactic Acid. I'm your host, Dominique Smith. Today, I have a certified baller, shot caller. Dude is doing humongous things when it comes to elevating the sport of track and field, lifting up voices, and definitely reminding us of the history, how far we've come and how far we've got to go, and everything else in between. I call him the historian. He's actually part one of the historian. I call Dr. Hannah Borenstein the official track and field historian, but he's right up there with it. And guess what? You need to follow his page, Track and Field Black History in the Final Leg. He is none other than the man himself, cooler than the other side of the pillow, Mr. Anderson Emerole. Anderson, brother, what's going on, my friend? Appreciate you coming on the show.
Absolutely, absolutely. So like beyond appreciative to even be here and to be able to chat, man. That intro is too crazy. So I love it. I love it.
Dog, that you fit that mold. Shout out to the late great Stuart Scott, but he used to have cooler than the other side of the pillow. And dog, that is you. That is you incorporated. But I gotta ask you this because I ask everybody's on the show when they come on the show. So we're gonna do. Let's just say, you know, ABC. Actually, bump ABC. Let's say CBS met with Food Network and they met with Frito-Lay. They said, yo, there's a page. There's two pages. It's called The Final Leg, Track and Field Black History. The dude that runs the show is somebody that we need to elevate because he is killing the game in such a way that it deserves to be celebrated. So they want to make a springtime promotion centered around your greatness and all the great things that you've done. So CBS has the Grammys, right? So they said, here's what we're going to do. We are going to give him a ticket to the premier music event in the world, being the Grammys. He can accompany any artist, past or present. Well, not past, because obviously can't take a dead person to the Grammys, but any artist from any time period. So let's just say like Gladys Knight to Usher to whoever. He can accompany them, and we're going to roll out the red carpet for the both of them. So that's one thing they're going to do for you. Food Network said, all right, here's what we're going to do. We're not going to make them do Chop. We're not going to make them do Bacon Championships. We're not going to make them go and beat Bobby Flay. We're going to do something better. We're going to create he's going to create a meal that is either a burger, pizza, or any custom dish that he cannot live without. And we're going to put it on every menu in the world that we're affiliated with. That's the second thing they're going to do for you. Frito-Lay or any other chip brand, they said we got to get in the mix too. We can't be left out. They want to create a custom potato chip of two flavors combined into one, or unless you have like just a go-to flavor that you cannot live without, they're going to hook you up with that. So what we need, the Grammys, who are you going to accompany? Food Network, burger, pizza, or custom dish? And then what is this potato chip that we're working on?
Oh man. All right. So this is a lot. So let's see. Okay, so Grammys, I definitely could get that. That should be pretty easy, somewhat. Well, going to the Grammys, I'm definitely going with Nas. Like I got to go through with Nas. Nas is my favorite rapper ever. He's,
Okay.
in my opinion, the greatest rapper ever. Um,
Ooh.
yeah.
Ooh.
He,
Okay. You
listen,
have a case. There's a case for him, but
yeah, very strong case, very strong case. No, but I'm definitely going Nas, and he just 2020 was it 2021 or 2022? I forget, but he just won his first Grammy, for album of the year with King's Disease. He just went on a crazy run with King KD1, KD2, KD3, Magic. Like Nas is, again, in my opinion, the GOAT. But that's what I'm going to the Grammys with. Um, the second one, this was a Food Network, right? Food Network
mm-hmm.
is okay, and I gotta come up. What I gotta get like
Either a burger, pizza, custom burger, custom pizza, or if there's just a go-to dish that you cannot live without. So one of the three.
oh, okay. I mean, yeah, I would go. A burger is dope, or pizza is dope, but I would definitely. So, my Nigerian roots, I'm going with jollof rice. We have to have jollof rice on the plate. I would add like a whole bunch of other things, but like Nigerian jollof rice. is what I'm bringing to the masses. If you haven't already had it, if you haven't had jollof rice, I guess shout out to everyone else, whether it's Ghana, Senegal, wherever, but like just any type of jollof rice. But my Nigerian jollof rice, I definitely gotta put that out.
I got to ask about that in a minute, but tell me what we're doing about this potato chip to wrap it up.
Oh, potato chip. I don't know. This would be tough. I think for potato chip, I would actually not do chips. I would prefer white cheddar popcorn. That would be my,
Okay.
yeah, if I could like skirt the rules. I don't know. But
Yeah. That's fine. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
So
Yeah, I would do like some white cheddar popcorn. That's like my go-to.
that's OG. Oh man, I used to eat that. Oh, I forgot the brand. Oh, I forgot the brand.
There's like Smart Food. Smart Food is the
Smart Food. Yep.
yeah.
Used to eat that back in the day. White cheddar popcorn, cheese puffs, hot Cheetos, all the above. I was just in the store the other day and they have all of the OG snacks. So they had the cosmic brownies. I was an oatmeal cream pie brother myself with the cosmic brownies. They had honey buns and what is it? The
Yeah,
ones
Miss Debbie or like something like that, right?
yeah, the zebra cakes.
Oh my gosh, man, you're bringing me back.
Oh man, just trips to the dollar store.
Yeah.
Daily Dollar, man. Tell me about this rice. I've never heard of it. Tell me about it.
Oh, man, jollof rice is the greatest ever. Again,
Okay.
I'm Nigerian. If you're West African, you're very much like in tune with like the jollof wars between Nigeria, Ghana, Senegal, even like Guinea, Ivory Coast, like wherever. But yeah, jollof rice, it's a tomato-based rice. It's you make a I mean, I could cook a whole thing now, but like you make like tomato stew, for example, and you'll put like a whole bunch of spices and pepper and stuff like that. And then you cook the rice in the actual stew. And yeah, it's just like super flavorful.
Oh, oh,
You
dude,
definitely,
eat that
yeah,
all the time. Eat that all the
dude,
time.
jollof rice is like
I had
the
no
world.
idea. That's where
Yeah,
that
yeah,
came
yeah, yeah,
from.
yeah.
We
Yep.
go good.
No, I was just gonna say, yeah, like I mean, you've definitely probably again, there's like variations to a degree, but yeah, it's a traditional West African dish, all across. It's amazing.
I just had to look it up because it's just I don't know because everybody has their own kind of spin. What we do is we use just had it what 2 months ago, but we go get the stewed tomatoes
Hmm.
and it has the seasonings and stuff and some jasmine rice and then you
Yep.
boil everything and then you put I put season all
Yep.
because it has the garlic powder and all the seasonings and stuff and I had no idea.
Yep.
I
Yep.
had
Yep.
no idea. See,
It's jollof.
I told you we got the historian on here because I'm telling you, man, I had no idea that's what it was. That's what it originated from.
Yep.
Man, we
Yep.
used to eat that all the time growing up.
Yeah.
Like,
That is so good.
like if you're listening, America, get yourself some jollof rice with a piece of fried chicken or pork chop, or whatever the case might be. I'm telling you, it is like the red beans and rice of the tomato family. Wow. Okay.
Yep.
I'm gonna have to do that. Anderson, like I said, he is the founder of Track and Field Black History, has an Instagram page as well as a podcast in addition to the final leg where he breaks down races, does shorts, exclusives, everything, and they talk about the deeper things of track and field, and it's definitely something that I encourage everybody to listen to. We'll definitely be sure to put this in the show notes. This is the second edition of our Black History Month special. The first one we had T. Williams on the show, and we got a chance to talk about a few things, but Track and Field Black History. I wrote a story on it for Fan Hub TF, and it was one of the most interesting things when we first got a chance to connect and talk. And I learned more about, what it is that just the origins and the foundations, and without going into make you repeat everything, it started in COVID. And then everything was going on with the protests around the country. pertaining to George Floyd, and then you started to bring a track and field spin to it. One of the things I actually wrote a story, and I'm curious about when you um, get a chance to bring a new athlete to light and some of the things that they went through. I actually wrote a story ahead of the Super Bowl about former track and field athletes who now excel, or who excelled on the football field as well as the track. So naturally, the first person we bring up is Bullet Bob Hayes, who oddly enough, there's some like close family friend of mine that's his cousin and stuff. And living here in Florida, he's just such an iconic name for what he did. Went to Florida A&M University, FAMU Rattlers, got blood at that school, love that school. But I remember just writing it and just being amazed, like just the just the time period. And so we're talking about everything now and all these athletes about to break all these, or potentially, breaking all these records. But I don't know, it felt like refreshing to know background of how this came to be. We went from 100 yards to 100 meters, and now 100 meters, and now different, places from the Caribbean and possibly the United States are breaking records. What is the feeling that you get when you find a person, find a unique story, and you're able to deliver it and deliver information that enhances the story, but obviously brings to light just the wonderful things that we see on the track, or track and field on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, no, I think that hits it where it's like you find a story, you find an athlete with a story, and um specifically in terms of like track and field Black history, being able to bring to light what happened in the past and connect it with the present, and then kind of inform athletes now, fans now, whoever it is now, about what happened in the past, what people had to go through to be able to get to where they were at, and then to be able to set the foundation for what people are doing now. Even thinking of the football connection, like Bob Hayes is, of course, like he's the one that everyone definitely goes to, and he went through so many different things back when he was competing. I even think of Ronaldo Nehemiah, who competed in like the late 70s into the early 80s. He also played football, was at the University of Maryland, competed in track and field. He was the first person to break 13 seconds in the hurdles, in the 110-meter hurdles outdoors. But he actually was one of the reasons why athletes are able to do multiple sports. Before, when he was competing in the late 70s and in the early 80s, the sport was still amateur, and he wanted to have the opportunity to compete in track and in football. He lost the opportunity to attend the Olympics for because he wanted to go into football. But there's like a thing called like the Nehemiah rule, which allows athletes to now compete in multiple sports and not lose their professionalism or amateurism in either. And so it was great. I got to speak with him at World Championships, but kind of connecting what Devin Allen is doing now, where Devin Allen, he's able to go to play football for the Eagles, but he's also able to come back to track, right, and compete in multiple events. So again, kind of connecting, finding a story that connects with what happened in the past and how it applies to the future now. Those are kind of some of the things I really love, and that puts some perspective, gives some people some perspective, of course, educates everyone on different things. So yeah, something like that is like super, super cool to me.
And he's a big time agent
Yeah.
in the sport of track and field, Nehemiah. Do you ever, and it's not, I don't want to say like this is a cultural thing, but I think sometimes when Sid broke that record, ran 50.68 at Worlds, breaking the 400-meter hurdle record, the word that people, or the person that people brought up, was Bob Beamon. That what she was doing was Bob Beamon-esque, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember Bob Beamon. I don't remember seeing Bob Beamon. We are not of that generation. But it still could have, I think it was Bolden. I think it was Bolden or Sonia Richards Ross. It still could be, similar. There could be some similarities, but it's one of those things where it's like, okay, how would this younger generation know about the Bob Beamons and know about the Mike Powells and even Carl Lewis to an extent? When you bring history to the forefront for people to see, do you realize, how do I put this? Not just that you're bridging a gap, but you keep history alive. Like, you, all those precious moments that, people might have seen in the 60s, 70s, 80s, we're not seeing those. We can't remember that, but you keep those memories, you keep that information, you keep those moments alive with what you do. Do you ever realize that, and what has been the response from the former athletes and the people whose story that you're telling? What's been their response and how they received it, what you're doing?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think for me, it's like I'm part of like not only giving the opportunity to shed light on these stories and these amazing performances that happened in the past, but I'm also learning along the way as well. Where, yeah, I obviously wasn't born. I was born decades and decades after Bob Beamon, had his amazing jump. I had to go back and learn about it. I had to go back and find out who was Bob Beamon in the first place. Um, but being able to bring some of those stories to light about these amazing performances that happened in the past goes back to what we were saying before, where it's like it connects to what happens in the future. Where, yeah, Bob Beamon, 1968, he broke this amazing world record in the long jump. Sadie McLaughlin now is running 50.68 in the hurdles, and she's breaking this amazing world record. What are the similarities between the two? But like, you know building a connection. I don't expect everyone nowadays to know what happened in the past, but again, looking at at that trajectory and making a connection where it's like, okay, Bob Beamon did this in 68, and then like Michael Johnson did this in 1996, right? Then Usain Bolt in 2008, right? He did a whole thing, and then now we're at Sidney McLaughlin now in 2022, looking at a timeline of like, oh wow, okay, these amazing performances continue to progress, and we're seeing a timeline of them throughout history, making the connections between them two, between them, seeing what similarities are happening with them, not only with the performances, but maybe around like the event, around the meet, around the time period, what's going on during the time period. So just provide some context for everyone. I think that's it's an amazing thing. Again, I love to be able to share stories. I love to be able to, educate people. And then I love to learn myself. It's so dope to be able to kind of build that connection again, build that timeline in a sense.
I'm going to ask this question, then we'll jump to some off track stuff.
Yeah.
We talk about, and you and I are going to do an episode of Track Talk after this. So everybody be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel on Lactic Acid to get a more in-depth take on this. We look at style, right? And you talk about style, people showing up to meets, in certain attire. My favorite, is Marvin Bracy and his Air Force Ones. And I say that because I've seen, like I said, Marvin went to high school 4 miles from me. We graduated from the same year. So I got a chance to see him compete and whoop everybody often. And that fearless attitude, and that determination and that swagger he's always had, and then it just carries over. Um, when you see things like that, whether it's Noah Lyles and just like I said, just general style, do you think that the Gail Devers and the Flojos, just those amazing athletes who that's how it started and stuff like that, does that kind of get lost in the sauce, if you will, in your opinion?
Maybe. I don't know if I don't want to say it gets lost in the sauce, because I think there's like levels where it's like, okay, you see Noah Lyles, coming out fresh. You see, Sha'Carri Richardson, like with the, amazing nails and everything, right? Like they're getting super stylish. Um, I think it depends. There's a lot of athletes who are very well versed in, some of these past, like I remember, Sha'Carri, she spoke about, Flojo is one of her idols, like Wilma Rudolph, right? And, they had a lot of
Yeah.
style. Even Noah Lyles, he's very much a student of the sport. But, there's also a lot of athletes who aren't necessarily like, they don't know the past. But I think not even just in track, I think it carries itself in any capacity where there's probably things that I've done now. Like, so for example, like I listen to, like I was saying, Nas is like one of my favorite, it's my favorite artist. Want to go to Grammys with him. I was listening to Nas for my entire life and for years before I even knew who like Rakim was. And Rakim came before Nas, right? I had to learn about it. Doesn't like diminish, I don't think it diminishes the fact that like, you know, I love this artist or I love this thing or I'm emulating these things. It's just I had to go back and learn a little bit and I could see, oh, wow, okay, I'm doing a lot of things that, you know, connect somebody else was already doing before me. Now I can have the opportunity to kind of pay homage. Now I can have the opportunity to kind of like, you know, appreciate what they did in the past. Because yeah, I mean, one of the biggest things for me is like, you know, I do history and the more I learn, just the more I continue to learn, I continue to discover new things. Like you can continue to go as far back in the past and someone farther back always started something, whether it's 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 50 years ago, 100 years ago. Someone started something that continued to blossom and continue to push something forward. So, you know, a Flojo, Gail Devers, or, you know, Carl Lewis or whoever, they definitely pushed something forward, but they weren't the first in certain aspects. There's probably, at Millrose just happened this weekend and Bob Beeman was there getting honored with something. This guy was in like a leather jacket. He had like a leather snakeskin jacket. He had like these dope shoes that were like colorful. Like his style was crazy. And he's like decades before, you know, a Flojo or Carl Lewis or whatever, right? So it's all, I think, progression where you unintentionally like take things from the past, but when you do learn about it, you have the opportunity to kind of honor those people and, you know, appreciate it.
Oh my gosh, Bob
Yeah.
Beeman decked out in like a 60s and 70s. Who was the artist I'm thinking of? I wouldn't say Shaft, but
Oh, Shaft, right? Yeah.
oh man, just OG. I like that.
Yeah, yeah. It was
OG.
it was fire. It's so fire. I was like,
Uh,
yo, wow, you're killing it right now.
like Bob, man. You know, I'm a 70s, 60s, 70s junkie myself when it comes to that music. So like all these songs, what's that song? Diamond in the Back, Sun Rooftop, Dig in the Scene with a Gangster Lean, woo woo. Man, okay. I see you, Brother Beeman. I see you, Mr.
All
Beeman.
right.
What are three things that people do not know about the legend that is Anderson Emerald?
Oh my gosh. Wow, that don't know about me. I don't know. That's a hard three things people don't know about me. I don't know. I guess one is I'm born and raised in New York City. People might know that already, but you know, sometimes it's like, you know, I'll go to these different meets or I'll go to different places and, you know, people will wonder, you know, where I'm from. But yeah, I'm born and raised in New York City. That's like specifically in Queens, which is, again, I'm always going to connect that to Nas. But yeah, so I don't know, born and raised in New York City. That's something about me. Um, let's see. What else? What else? I don't know. Like I said, I'm Nigerian. My background is in Nigeria. I'm very passionate. You know, I love I love Nigeria. I love my country. Um, my parents were both born in Nigeria. I do a lot of stuff with, you know, in track and field with Nigerian media, which is pretty cool. But yeah, that's something that's really really good. Um, man, I don't know, a third thing. I don't know. Um, I don't know. Okay, so maybe one more thing I could think of is I outside of track. So I don't watch like any other sports. I don't follow like basketball. I don't follow football or anything like that. One
Okay.
thing I do follow heavily um is battle rap. I don't know if like I don't know,
Battle rap.
battle rap.
So
So this is like
okay, go ahead.
yes, it's like rappers battle going up against each other, just rapping using you know um using schemes, wordplay, you know, freestyles, like all kinds of stuff like that. That is like one of my favorite things to watch.
What's that show with Nick Cannon?
Oh, that's
It,
Wild and Out. Yeah. So so
yeah,
on Wild
Walden.
and yeah, yeah, yeah. You there's like Charlie Clips is on Wild and Out. There's Hitman Holla. There's Conceited. Right. They started their careers in battle rap, and then they went into Wild and Out. So battle rap is like I love it.
So where do you find? Because that's OG. But here's the thing: they used to make movies about maybe if not it's battle rap and battle dance.
Mm.
Because you look at Stump the Yards, you look at just even my one of my favorite movies of all time is Drumline.
So yeah.
Um, And so there's always that, but you can't find too many battle raps. I mean, what was that show? Oh man, I used to watch it all the time.
Which one did it? You know it?
106 and Park
Oh yeah, yeah.
on BET.
Yep. They
Um
had like Freestyle Fridays on that.
Freestyle Fridays. Man, so where do you find, especially now, like where do you find it?
I mean, it's all on YouTube. I mean, I don't know. I could go into like history and stuff, but like there's this thing called Smack DVDs. So Smack DVDs, started here in New York City, where this guy was just like going to random neighborhoods in the city and just like recording battles happening, people on the street corners just like battling. And then it turned into, over time it turned into a bigger thing. A lot of it is on YouTube now, just various YouTube pages like URL, Smack URL. There's like RBE, there's KOTD, there's a lot of different like battle leagues. And it's not like huge, but this is like when I'm not following track and field and when I'm not following politics. I really love politics. I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, but I follow politics heavily. But I'm watching battle rap. Battle rap is my thing.
Hey, I ain't mad at it. Listen, I ain't mad at it. That's OG. So you're in the 90s just like I am, man.
Yeah.
Who is your go-to 90s hip-hop dude? Hip-hop outside of Nas. Well, so we got Nas, but who else does it for you?
Oh man. So man,
I have a
okay.
feeling you're gonna say something and I'm gonna agree with it and I'll be pissed off that you said it before I did.
Oh
So
yeah.
go
I
ahead.
don't I don't know. I don't know. But this is hard. Okay, so only like 90s, like 90s hip hop.
Yeah, that's just 90s, early 2000s. The stuff we grew up listening to on the radio, basically.
Man. Well, I don't know. Okay, so this is tough. Like Nas is of course the top, but then it's gonna be interesting actually. I really love Common. So Common is actually one of
Yeah.
my favorite. Yeah, Common is one of my favorite rappers. He actually in that like late 90s, early 2000s, like there was a whole like I don't know if you know the Soulquarians era. There was
Mm-hmm.
like Erica Badu was in there. There was like Mos Def, Talib Kweli, The Roots.
Dang it, man. That was mine. That's mine right there. The
Who are you gonna
Roots.
say?
The
Okay,
Roots.
actually, what's crazy? That's why I asked you if it's 90s, because after Nas, my second favorite, I guess, rapper is Black Thought, but like group is The Roots. The Roots are amazing.
That's
Like,
that's mine. That's mine, man. I
yeah.
love, but go ahead. I'll get to
No,
my affinity for the Roots in a minute, but
no, no, no. I mean, that's it. I gotta agree with you. Are like, the Roots are amazing. I am obsessed with The Roots. I can play The Roots nonstop all the time. I honestly think Black Thought is probably the most technically skilled lyricist and rapper in history in terms of like technical ability and skill and like all that. And the idea that like you have a rapper who's able to like rap over live instrumentation and like they're a whole band. They're a hip hop band. It's amazing to me.
it's not. There's no pre-recorded stuff. It's you got Questlove on the drums, setting the stage for everybody, and then everybody kind of flows into place. My opinion, I know you love Nas. Black Thought is the best rapper of all time because he is the rapper that, to me, his lyrics makes you. It is deep. One of the deepest artists, and I was thinking about this back around Christmas time. So one of the artists that usually, I have bumping around Christmas time, the many artists is Stevie Wonder.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing about Stevie Wonder is Stevie has these little songs and lyrics that cuts about the smallest things, but man, it penetrates deep into your soul.
Yeah.
He's had this song, One Little Christmas Tree. And dog, that song just penetrates your soul. It's like a Christmas tree is making you like emotional and stuff like that because it's talking about the Christmas tree and then just people and then what it stands for and what it represents and everything. I'm like, oh my gosh, Black Dog has that kind of deepness. I'll walk
Mm-hmm.
around my house and I'm listening to Proceed and Continue to
Yes, yes.
like dude, Black Dog, that's just me. Just that different era. It feels like it challenged you intellectually. But what I love, as a journalist, I love storytelling. Their songs, the root songs, Common, all of those, it tells a story. That's why I love it. I was listening um, Wu-Tang Clan, Cash Rules Everything Around Me, and stuff like that. And how just the methods and just how the story it goes. It talks about how you were brought up, the things you saw, the struggles you went to, but at the end of the song, it's telling you, um, Seth's drinking beer. He ain't trying to hear what I'm kicking in his ear, but it's trying to save you from that. So it's just like this storytelling that just doesn't feel like it exists anymore.
Yeah, man, dude, that's why Black Thought is Black Thought is crazy with the storytelling, and it's so, again, the intricacies of his rhyming are crazy. I think there was one song he did. I forget the song, but he did like he acted as if he was Cool G Rap and also Big Daddy Kane. Like he rapped in their kind of like in their voices and in their kind of persona whatever, and like told stories about like their lives and stuff like that. That was like super super cool. And like you said, all the Roots albums are like they're super super deep. They dive into these really really impactful stories that really make you think. Um, and even one of the reasons I love Nas as well is because he also, with that storytelling, it's super impactful. Where he's done multiple songs where he's done like personification, where he's told a story from something. So in the example, like he's done like I Gave You Power, where he was like as if he was acting like a gun. He's done um he did a song called Fried Chicken with Busta Rhymes, where he was acting as if he was talking as if he was, the fried chicken from the perspective of that. He did a song called Project, what's it called? I think it's Project Roach, but acting as if he's a roach living in the project. So
Yeah.
like telling stories from the perspective of something, like that's like complex. So yeah, all of them, the storytelling is crazy. And like you said, both of us, right, in journalism, being able to tell those stories in impactful ways, in different ways, that will really allow the reader, the viewer, whoever may be, the listener, to connect with it, or even maybe they're not even like they can't connect with it, but they can just like understand it from some perspective. I think it's so dope. So yeah.
I don't see that in today's, hip hop rap sphere, but from your man, and it was something that everybody could listen to, essentially. But how important is the storytelling aspect from a cultural standpoint, in your opinion?
It's super important. It is super super important. Where like you can't have anyone, to a degree, right? Anyone can tell a story, but the cultural aspect, if you can't connect with your readers or your listeners or your viewers um on a cultural level, then that completely changes the game, right? If you're able to dive into nuances that your audience is going to be able to connect with, that only you know about, or only this group of people can know about, I think that's like super super important. Now that doesn't like diminish the fact that like other people who may not be culturally connected, you know they shouldn't be telling stories as well. But I think the cultural aspects that a journalist, or a rapper, right, even an actor or whoever it may be, right, if they're able to really connect um, with their fans, with their viewers or listeners on that cultural level, I think that really changes how a story is received, and really changes what the viewer, what they actually receive. So yeah, I think that's super super important.
How can a track and field athlete do that in this day and age? How can you tell a story just by sprinting 100 meters? 200 meters, something like that.
I mean, I think it starts like in multiple waves where, and I think like a lot of the current athletes do this pretty well, where you're going to run a 100-meter dash or 200-meter dash or whatever, but what's happening beforehand, right? What's the, do we know about you beforehand? Are you telling your story beforehand? Are you hyping up the race? Are you talking about like the implications of the race? Even going back to Noah Lyles, where he's running these indoor races, but he's having these matchups with like Trayvon Bamel and Christian Coleman, but he's hyping it up beforehand. He's telling a little bit about his story of competing in the 60-meter dash. What implications does it have for later on in the season? Things like that. I think that's like super important. And then the aftermath, right? What are you talking about after the race? Not only what happened in the race, but how does this like how does it affect you as a person? Did this race change anything about what you're doing for the rest of the year? Those kinds of things are super important. Where the 10-second race or 9-second race in the 100-meter dash, right? That's just not a one-off. All this story is like built up around it. So we have a lot more to be able to tell and a lot more to connect with. So now fans are excited for the next race, right? We want to know a lot more. We're excited for next year. We want to know a lot more, so that's, I think, super, super important for athletes to do.
I think an underrated storyteller in this sport is Fred Curley. And I think people take it as like, he says the same thing and says the same thing, but the dude, if you look at his background and you look at the things he's overcome, and he always, says it. He said it in an interview maybe a month or two ago with Anton. He said, "This is easy. Like this is easy compared to how he grew up and just the situations that he was in. I think I read something where he was sleeping on a crate, whatever the case might be. I don't know, and there's like this balance between you have to tell your story, but at the same time, if you're kind of private, you don't want people all up in your business because people can take that story, they can twist it, or they can judge you, for it too. So I don't know. I think what you say is good. No, what you say is great. But from our perspective, us as people who cover the sport, how do you enhance the story without it becoming roadkill? Or not roadkill, but let me ask this. How do you enhance a person's story to tell their story, the things they've overcome, without it being overkill or just, overdone? It's pretty much dried out. Like you left some chicken in the oven for 2 hours and it's just dried completely out. How can we do a better job of that?
Yeah, I think like just finding little nuances in every single thing, finding little nuances that someone may not have known, or again taking something from a different perspective and being able to highlight it, right? Like I can tell, I could talk about Fred Curley in one way. You could talk about Fred Curley in a completely different way, from a perspective that I would have never thought of. And I could tell we could be talking about the exact same thing, but we could tell it in a different way, right? Just because we find nuances. Um, and then also, I think embracing a lot of the different athletes and their personalities, where I think Fred Curley is a perfect example where Fred Curley and Noah Lyles have like different personalities, right? They're different people. Noah Lyles might be a lot more out there. Fred Curley, he may be a little more reserved, but he's like, I think there's like a kind of mysterious aura around him sometimes, which is like really, really cool. And I think being able to highlight that and being able to, take their personalities and like put it in a perfect light, I think in a good light, I think is like really, really important. That's what I really love about our sport, where all these people are running the same event. They're all running the same race, for the most part, whatever, if we're talking about like a 100-meter dash as an example, but everyone has these different personalities. Fred Curley is not like Marvin Bracey, who's not like Noah Lyles, who's not like Christian Coleman. But we can tell all these different stories in different ways that will put all these athletes in a positive light. And then by the time we get to the race, we're like, yo, this story is like, Marvin Bracey's coming like this, and then Curley's coming like this, Lyles is coming like this, Coleman's like this, like Trayvon is like this. Like, what's going to happen? They're all coming from these different backgrounds. Like, I love like highlighting, if we can highlight, all these different personalities, it's super, super important to, entice the fans and keep us interested. And again, we're all different people. The athletes are all different. The journalists were all different. Being able to highlight the athletes in different ways is super important. And that keeps things interesting. I mean, the 100-meter dash is always going to be what it is. The mile is always going to be, what it is. The distance isn't changing. The athletes change. The journalists, we change, right? The perspectives change. That's what I think is super, super important.
And we're going to wrap this up with a bow pretty soon. How do you incorporate your Nigerian heritage into the work that you do when it comes to covering the sport on a day-to-day basis? I'm genuinely curious about that.
No, yeah, it definitely depends. I mean, if I'm like writing something or writing a story or creating a story about like a specific athlete who's like Nigerian, that's a whole different thing. Also, like, that gets like very specific. But then also, it goes to like the cultural perspective as well, where especially so from the history side, there's a lot of information. Of course, as you get closer and closer to current history, there's a lot of information, more and more information that's available. But one thing I love is like during the I guess it's like the post World War II. So like 50s, 60s, 70s, et cetera, right? There was a whole wave of decolonization, for a lot of African nations. So you see countries like Kenya, Nigeria, Ghana, and all these nations across Africa be able to get independence, and they start competing at the Olympic Games and internationally and things like that. So from the perspective and stories that I know from my family and from people in Nigeria, understanding how that relates to like African athletes who competed during those times, African athletes who are competing now, and like learning from people in the past and things like that. That's like super super cool. And then also just the international perspective, where we're here in the United States, and mostly for the most part we cover a lot of U.S. athletes, but the sport is very very global. And so when I'm doing stuff for Nigeria and like learning about Nigerian athletes, that helps me to understand, okay, what are the implications of that on American athletes, right? You have a lot of athletes who are internationally trained here in the United States, right? But they still have to go back home and compete for their national trials, and things like that. I know there's the conversation now there's a lot of conversation now about like the professionalism in sport, in terms of like, pros should be at a level, NCAA should be at a level, high school should be at a level. But then when you're talking about like athletes from Nigeria, like Favashe from Nigeria, he came to the NCAA, but like before that, was he technically a high school athlete, or was he like, like high school isn't the same in like Nigeria or even like in Europe or wherever it may be. It's not the same as it is in the United States. So should like a quote unquote open athlete who's not in the NCAA but is from another country, should they be considered like professional or not? Or what's like delineation? Our sport is very 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 global, and I know sometimes it's easy in the United States for us to think of like, football is doing this, basketball is doing this, whatever is doing this, but like those sports only compete in the United States, right? And the NBA is not in Nigeria, it's not in Europe, right? They have, other leagues exist, but those are only in the United States, whereas track and field is very very global. Just going back to just because we competed just this past weekend, but like Noah Lyles trains with Dream Richards. Dream Richards competes for Trinidad and Tobago, right? That's not the United States. So what are the implications of like an international athlete competing and training here in the United States when they're not American? Just a whole bunch of things like that I think are kind of super, what I think about a lot, where the US is one perspective, but like we're talking about world athletics, we're talking about track and field globally. So some of those perspectives I really do think about a lot. So I don't know. Yeah.
What is the most New York thing that you've done or that you do on a daily basis that fits that New York City stereotype?
Oh my gosh, the most New York thing. Man, the most New York thing. Oh man, I don't know. I mean, I go to the deli a lot. I don't know if that's
I was
like,
just about to say that.
I mean, yeah, I go to the deli a lot. That's like a New York thing. I don't know. That's crazy. It's hard to think though, because I'm a New Yorker, so I don't know. It's just like
That's what I'm
whatever.
saying. Like, can it be pizza? Can it be the subway? Can it be the deli? Like that's because as a Floridian, listen, I'm telling you, let me go to New York for 2 days. I'm not coming back the same. I'm going to find me where I can get me a pastrami on rye and a Reuben. I'm going to look for some pizza. Like,
I'll give you one probably very New York thing. So, um, I haven't driven a car in over a decade, and I only have my driver's license because I need an ID. But I don't, like, you can argue that I don't know how to drive a car. I just take the subway. For me, there's no need for it in New York City. I know many many people who are like super super old, and they don't even have a driver's license. I don't even, yeah. So that's probably a very New York thing. I don't know.
it's cheap. It makes sense. It's cheaper. You get a taxi, get the subway, and then when you go like domestically, you get an Uber or something like that.
That's all it is. Like, that's what it is. I don't. Why do I need a car? So
No, like for me, there's no way in the world. Like if we're going to cover meat here, listen. I don't know them roads. You know, I don't know the people driving on the roads. Let me, somebody else. Let's just run it back with them. Oh man. Let's wrap this thing up with a bow, man. Dragonfield Black History is your channel, and you share the stories of so many that come before us that have impacted not just younger or current generations of African American or Black athletes, but just athletes in general.
Yeah.
From your perspective, how important is the work that you do?
Well, oh man, that's like pressure on me. I don't know. I mean, I think it's important. I don't want to say like the work I specifically do. I think it's like a definitely a collaboration, amongst a bunch of people, whether that's like athletes I speak to, coaches I speak to, or whoever it may be. But no, I think it's super important to be able to tell these stories because of like what we said, right? Um, the history, it really does have an impact on the future and what's going on now, right? We can learn a lot from the past so that we could either do, we can improve upon it, or we can, you know, replicate what was done in the past or improve on the wrong things that were done in the past. Um, I think it's super, super important for these, these athlete stories to be shared. And even more specifically, a lot of, lesser known stories, a lot of lesser known athletes, Carl Lewis is a GOAT, Jesse Owens is a GOAT, you know, Flojo, Wilma Rudolph, right? They are all GOATs. But then there's a plethora of other athletes as well who also have amazing experiences and amazing stories that also need to be told alongside with these other athletes as well. So, and it kind of builds the entire cohesive structure of like, okay, this is a history of our sport. This is what not only the person who won gold in the 100 meters was doing, but also the person who got 12th place in, the 400 meters was doing, right? Like those stories I think are super, super important to tell, again, to inform us so that we can push the sport forward into the future now. So yeah.
Last question. What has been what's been see, this is gonna be a tough question for you because you probably have a lot. But what's been your favorite interaction? Let's say you told a story, but you got a chance to interact with that person. What's been one of your most memorable interactions?
Oh man, that is tough. I mean, man, I'll probably go with um man, oh there's a lot. Okay, yeah, I'll probably go. I was gonna say somebody, but I didn't. I just like spoke to them this weekend, so I'm not. Whenever I put that out, I'll do that. But um, I'm probably gonna go with John Smith. So Coach John Smith, he's legendary coach out in California. He used to coach at UCLA for many many years, but he coached probably who's who of whoever you can name. But uh, he just the conversation with him, he's had tons and tons of experience in track, but he really dove into his experience growing up in the 1960s into the 70s as well, and like all the things that were going on politically, all the things that were going on in society. He really dove into that and how it affected his life, and then of course eventually how it affected his time in the track. But that was really really impactful again because you know I wasn't I wasn't even a thought. I don't even think my parents were born, back back then. But being able to learn about the past like that and connect it to what's going on now was like super super great. So yeah, John Smith was amazing.
Anderson, you have survived the interrogation process. Now we are moving on to the even harder stuff. This segment is called Down the Home Stretch. I'm going to ask you a few rapid fire questions. I want you to answer them to the best of your ability. If I stop you to elaborate on the answer, it does not count against the time. And if you don't answer them as fast as you can, please believe me, I don't care. I could care less. So, are you ready?
Let's do it.
If there was a food that you could live with for the rest of your life and a food that you can get rid of, what would they be?
Oh, that I could live with for the rest of my life. Is health a concern?
No, health is
Oh,
never a
okay.
concern.
So so then give me give me some Sour Patch Kids. I will live with Sour Patch Kids
Oh
for the rest of
boy.
my life. As long as health is not a concern and as long as I get nourished, I don't know. I'll live with Sour Patch Kids forever. Um, that I can completely get rid of. Um, I don't know if it's gonna hurt anybody. I can completely get rid of yogurt. I think yogurt is disgusting. I don't know.
I mean, that's fine. Like everybody's different strokes for different folks. Listen, Sour Patch Kids, that's different, man. I love Sour Patch Kids. Sour Patch Kids and Sweet as Fish.
Yep.
Those
Yep.
were like go-tos back in the day. This is gonna be a tough one. Are you familiar with Morris Day and the Time?
I am not. More staying the time. I'm not.
Okay, so but that's okay. I just had to throw a curveball just in case. Michael Jackson or Prince?
Oh, and let me not say easy, but MJ. I will. I'm not easy, but Michael Jackson, man. Yeah, Michael Jackson, man. Prince is man. Prince is crazy. Prince is fire, but I got to go with Michael Jackson, man. The impact, man. The impact.
The disrespect for Prince on the show. Like between you and T and everybody, like, come on, man.
The
I
thing
mean,
is,
I don't disagree. I don't disagree. I mean, you said Michael Jackson, T said Michael Jackson, Marvin Bracey said Michael Jackson. So I mean, dang.
I'll give you this. I mean, I remember where I was when Michael Jackson passed away. I know Prince passed away. I think it was 2016, but like it's just not as memorable for me. That's all I'll say.
That's
I
fair.
love Prince. I love Michael Jackson, but like it's MJ. Sorry.
Dream, yeah, that's okay. That's okay. Dream vacation spot.
Ooh, dream vacation spot. Um, I don't know. I want to go to Ghana. I've never been to Ghana. I've been to
Yeah.
Nigeria a trillion times because my family's from there, but like I really want to go to Ghana one day. Yeah.
If you had to sit down and have dinner with anybody, who are you having dinner with?
Oh, with anybody. They have to be alive.
Yeah, we don't do that.
Oh man. I don't know. That's hard. Anybody. That's a good question. I'm not, wow, I'm not too sure. I mean, I'd probably,
That's not. You can say Nas.
okay, I won't say Nas. I'll go Black Thought then. I'll say Black Thought. I'd love to sit down with Black Thought to pick his mind a little bit.
I have to be honest with you. Jimmy Fallon deserves an award just for the fact that he was able to get the Roots to be like, and you got him sing like, come on, man. Well, I don't want to say he flees the system, but Jimmy, man, you need you have to get your flowers for getting the Roots, the
Right.
best band on television, um, best band on television to play. All right, a few more questions. What if, actually, better yet, if you could be a guest, a friend of, or just a character on any television show you grew up watching, like you could be, let's just say the it was real life and you could be in that and you could be friends with the characters or whatever. What show are you picking?
Does it have to be like a real show or it could be like a cartoon?
Either or.
Oh, so then I'm going Courage the Cowardly Dog. So it's my favorite
Oh,
show. Yep.
that's interesting. That's interesting.
Yep. It's my favorite show ever, arguably. And like Courage, I think, in my opinion, reflects me a lot. Where you know, like kind of it reflects a lot of me, of my personality in a sense. But I would love to just like hang out with him. He's like super, sometimes scared all the time, but like there's so much going on, and he finds a way to just like get things done. And he saves like his grandparents or whatever. Yeah, I know it's weird, but yeah.
That is something. Used to watch that show back in the day. Man, that leads me to my next question. I ain't hating on it because I just never would think Courage the Cowardly. But I mean, hey, I mean, I can see it because Courage like meant a lot. Yeah, I can see it. I can see it. Cartoon Network, Prime Cartoon Network, Prime Disney Channel, Prime Nickelodeon. You have to choose one.
Prime Cartoon Network. It's
Ooh,
yeah,
boy.
it's close with Nickelodeon, but Prime Cartoon Network for me is like yeah, Prime Cartoon Network. I'm yeah, just thinking of like the shows is Prime Cartoon Network, man.
Oh, nothing to me beats Prime Nickelodeon.
It's
Nothing,
close.
nothing beats Prime. And it's so. Oh man, you see, Cartoon Network has some bangers. So Dexter's Lab used to watch
Right.
that.
Yep.
Courage the Cowardly Dog.
Courage.
Oh boy, what is it? What is that show?
Which one? There are a lot.
Ed, and Eddie. That's
Ed
what
and
I'm
Eddie
thinking.
might be one of the greatest shows that, like, come on, come on, come on.
What else? There was the Powder Puff Girls.
Powerpuff Girls
Uh,
was there.
Johnny Bravo.
Yeah, Johnny Bravo was there. Nickelodeon definitely has some amazing shows though too. You can't, like, you got Rugrats, you got Hey
That's
Arnold. This
yeah,
Nickelodeon, right?
yeah.
Hey
That's
Arnold. Oh
oh
man,
man.
there's some good shows.
That's the thing about that's the thing. So I all the shows that I just named, I didn't like Powderpuff Girls. I watched Dexter, I watched Courage, I watched Ed, and Eddie, and I still feel like I'm missing one.
There's definitely a
Um,
lot. There's a lot.
gosh, but like I just named five. But I feel like with Nickelodeon, Rugrats is my all-time favorite. So you got
Mm,
Rugrats, Hey Arnold, Rocket Power, um,
yeah.
Cat Dog, Angry Beavers, Rocco's Modern Life, Ah Real Monsters, Keenan and Cal, all that. The Amanda Show. Uh man. Oh man. Rip
There's a
Coolidge.
lot. Oh man, there was a lot. I don't know though, man. Like Cartoon Network was, yeah, Cartoon Network was fire. And then also like you had like Cartoon Network had like I forget what it was called, but they had like Toonami, I think was part of Cartoon Network,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Was it Johnny Tsunami?
Johnny
Or
Tsunami. Like yeah, there was a couple like Cartoon Network was really good. I don't know, man. It's
okay, that's
close.
fair.
I'll say
That's
that. It's close.
Disney's running third for everybody, man. And
Yeah.
and the thing is, like, I used to watch Disney. There were five shows. Well, yeah, I think five. My main shows was Sister Sister,
Of
um, The Proud Family,
course, of course.
um, Even Stevens. I liked Even Stevens. I liked
Mm.
Lizzie McGuire, and there was another show. I guess that's So Raven. But there was a show with Smart Guy with Taj
Oh,
Mahal, the young
Smart
one.
Guy was yeah, Smart Guy was good. Smart Guy was pretty good. I
Man,
don't know though. Disney Channel, like I definitely it wasn't like it was cool. Like I think all the shows you definitely named were on point, but like, I don't
nah,
think it holds the weight to like
it
Cartoon
doesn't.
Network and Nickelodeon. Like, come on, come on.
Cards. That was see this question that I asked has been a running debate since I was in elementary school back in the 90s. Like everybody, you went home, you watched Cartoon Network or you watched Nickelodeon. And for me, and there's still shows I did not name on Nickelodeon. Okay, you're the first one to come on and say Cartoon Network, but listen, those were that's the painful thing about television. You can't watch TV anymore because it's like all reality. I miss
Yeah.
that era of television. If there could be someone that would narrate your life, that it was just tell your story in a narration form, who are you picking?
It's a master narration form. I mean, listen, Morgan Freeman, like Morgan Freeman, it either oh man, it either be Morgan Freeman because like got that distinct voice, like yeah, Morgan Freeman, or alternatively, the completely doesn't fit my personality, but I would love it'd be cool if like Samuel Jackson narrated with like he got to
Oh
be
man.
he got to be like 100% Samuel Jackson like in that distinct voice. That would be cool. But probably
Oh,
Morgan Freeman would be my first.
all right. This is gonna be a tough one. I only have a couple more. Tyler Perry or Spike Lee?
Oh, Spike Lee, easy. Spike Lee without a doubt. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah,
no,
Spike
no,
Lee.
no, no question at all. All
Yeah.
right, last couple questions. What if you were not doing what you are doing now as a content creator in the journalism field? What would be your career path?
Ooh. Oh no. I'd probably be doing something in education. I mean, I was a teacher for many, many years and I'd probably be doing something in education.
I'd like to be a college
Yeah.
professor.
Yeah, maybe college professor would be cool. Yeah, probably college professor. Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. Cause yeah, I love education and like yeah, probably college professor would be dope.
Dude, I don't know if you ever seen the show, but I feel like you would be the ultimate professor on the show. It's a different world.
Oh yeah, of course.
Like
Man, that shows. Oh, yeah, that would be fire.
that show was the most irritatingly culturally appropriate show I've ever
Right?
seen. Like you would kill it at It's a Different World.
Man, that show's fire.
Dwayne, Whitley, Ron. What is the best show of that? So we got A Different World, but what would you say is the between the 70s and the 90s? What is the best and well specifically in that genre? What would you say is the best show?
Man, I mean, I hope I don't get this might be controversial. I still love I love the Cosby Show. I do love the Cosby Show.
Okay.
I know it's probably controversial, but I do love at least like there was a lot of like amazing themes, and I loved like Malcolm Jamal Warner was like one of my favorite actors. He still does like amazing stuff now.
Yeah.
Um, um, so yeah, I mean, I think the themes, the topics, and various aspects of like relatability, I think was like super important there, or super like impactful. So yeah, I don't know. That'd be. I hope it's not like super controversial,
No,
but I don't know.
no, because it's the television show and not the person. I think
Yes,
Cosby Show is
not
a
the
little
person.
unrealistic because it does not fit what your typical African American home is looking like. But they did cover, different topics, and then they talked about the pressure of living up to prestigious parents. Because that's a lot of pressure. That's why Denise was my favorite character because she
Mm,
was the most realistic.
mm.
For me, man, it's a tie between living single
Oh man, that's good.
um,
That's good.
that is my favorite show,
That's
and
good.
and I was gonna say the Jeffersons, but mine would definitely be Living Single because George Jefferson was unhinged.
Yeah, he was kind of
Um,
crazy.
he was awful. He was awful. Just some
Oh
of the
man.
things, but it just and the only reason I like it, obviously there's some strong language and context in it, so it's not safe for the little ears. But it did a good job of that show in Good Times. I think did a really good job of painting kind of reality in that time period.
Yeah, that's actually Good Times is probably that's a big one. That Good Times is a really, really good show. And like you said, painting the reality of what it was like in that time period. Good Times is good. I also was just thinking of like Different Strokes was one that I really loved
Oh
as well.
yeah,
That was a good
yeah.
one, man.
God, there's Different Strokes, 227.
Yeah, man.
Man, gosh, a bunch of good ones.
It's too many.
Last there's one that has nothing to do, but there's a show called Who's the Boss?
Oh yeah,
That
who's the boss? Of course.
yeah, that for whatever reason, Tony Danza, that's my dude, man. Like I have no idea why I love that show, man, but I love that show. Last question. Why does kindness matter to you?
Oh man, kindness I think is one of the most important things because it it really allows you to connect with people. It really allows you to appreciate appreciate other people, understand that like other people may be going through things that you have no idea, right? People aren't always going to show, what's going on. But if you're kind to them, that's going to at least brighten up their day a little bit more. Um, Even it's connecting back to journalism a little bit, right? Like, we'll talk to athletes or we'll write stories on athletes and like that kindness goes a long way with them
Yep.
appreciating, the media as well and appreciating journalism as well. So yeah, I think kindness goes a long, long way and is, it's I don't know, kindness is underappreciated in even just like the little acts of kindness, super, super important. So yeah.
Anderson, good my man, where can the people find you? Where can they follow you and find your amazing work?
Absolutely. Yep. So Instagram, track and field Black History on Instagram. You can follow me there, and you'll be able to find all this stuff that I do with that there. And then also on YouTube, The Final Leg, you can find me there. A lot of stuff always there as well. So yeah, definitely hit me up. Check out the stuff.
Anderson's been doing some big things, covering some big meets. So please be sure to check out his collection of videos, articles, all the above. Instagram, he's dropping something new, what seems like every week, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
So please be sure to hit that up. Anderson, man, I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to chat with me. Hope everybody enjoyed the episode, and we will catch you next time.